Heungbu, his face glowing with wonder and deeply touched by the bird's kind gesture, carefully picked up the small seed. He hadn't dared to dream of riches. His only thought had been that perhaps this tiny gourd seed, given by the grateful swallow, might offer a little food to ease his children's gnawing hunger, just a humble supplement to their meager meals. He planted it gently near his hut, a tiny act of hope. To his great surprise, the seed quickly burst out of the ground, growing with unbelievable speed. In what seemed like just moments, it grew into a magnificent, huge gourd vine that stretched proudly across their simple roof, covered with enormous, shiny gourds. The gourds swelled up, getting bigger and bigger, shining with an unusual, almost magical glow. When they were finally ready, Heungbu, his hands shaking a little with excitement, gathered his excited family. The gourds were so immense and their shells so strong that they had to bring out a large, heavy saw, the kind typically used for cutting thick logs. With shared breaths, they carefully cut open the very first gourd. To their shock and wonder, instead of what they expected, the gourd unfurled, magically transforming their humble hut into a magnificent Hanok, a traditional Korean house, even grander and more beautiful than the one Heungbu had lived in with his parents. The family, tears welling up as they gazed at their new home. They cut open another, and amazed outpoured huge piles of fresh white rice, enough to feed them for a lifetime, ending their long period of hunger. The rice flowed endlessly, filling their newly built gukgan, the traditional Korean granary, to the brim and beyond, promising unending abundance. The next gourd, when opened, showed bundles of the finest, softest silk clothes, and another, to their surprise, brought out skilled servants ready to help them. Finally, the last gourd, when carefully cut open, was filled to the brim with shining gold coins and valuable, sparkling jewels. Their eyes grew wide with disbelief, and then filled with tears of great joy. One by one, each wonderful gourd gave Heungbu and his family incredible, unbelievable wealth and comfort, changing their lives from desperate poverty to riches they had only dreamed of. News of Heungbu's sudden, almost magical good fortune spread like wildfire throughout the whole village, especially as he began to generously share his newfound wealth and endless rice with all the poor neighbors, easing their burdens. Carried on the winds of talk, it finally reached the ears of his older brother, Nolbu. Nolbu's heart, already a dark, tight place full of wanting what others had, swelled with a burning, painful jealousy that twisted his face into an ugly look. He just couldn't understand how his poor brother, whom he had so cruelly thrown out, could have become so rich overnight. The thought bothered him, a never-ending, bitter feeling. Nolbu, known for being tricky and unfair, had always found ways to get ahead of others, even if it meant being dishonest or mean. Driven by an endless, blinding desire to get even more wealth for himself, Nolbu stomped with heavy, impatient steps over to Heungbu's now rich, shining new home. He burst in, his eyes narrowed with doubt, asking his brother questions again and again, his voice sharp and demanding. He insisted on knowing the secret to this sudden, amazing fortune. Heungbu, always kind and honest, despite his brother's harshness, patiently told the whole amazing story, how he had with real care looked after the tiny, injured swallow, its wonderful return with the magic seed and the surprising treasures that had come out of the gourds. Nolbu listened, his eyes shining not with happiness for his brother, but with a clever bad idea forming in his mind. He didn't offer any congratulations, no real warmth, no sign of happiness for Heungbu's good luck. Instead, a twisted smile appeared on his lips as he suddenly turned and hurried back to his own big, but now seemingly not good enough, house. His mind was filled with a selfish, mean plan. He would do what Heungbu did, but not by being truly kind. Oh no, he would take a tricky shortcut. He cleverly found a poor, unknowing swallow, and with a cruel, planned smile, he purposely grabbed its fragile leg and broke it. He ignored the bird's sad chirps and fluttering. Then, putting on a fake show, he wrapped the injured leg in a quick, pretending way, acting kind and caring, all for his own greedy gain. His heart held no real pity, only a dark, calculating wish for more. The next spring, just as Heungbu's amazing story had said, the swallow that Nolbu had so sneakily cared for returned. It flew over Nolbu's big fancy house and, with a quick swoop, dropped a gourd seed, just like the other swallow had done for his brother. Nolbu's heart beat fast with excitement, completely sure that his tricky, selfish plan had worked perfectly. He planted the seed with eager, shaky hands, already imagining piles of gold. And just like Heungbu's, a strong vine quickly grew, soon holding many truly huge, shiny gourds. Nolbu, unable to control his huge greed for another second, gathered his family, their faces showing the same greed. With a grand show, he began to cut open the first of the promising gourds. But what came out was a terrifying sight, completely opposite to the treasures he had so strongly expected. From the very first gourd, a group of scary, ugly demons jumped out, their eyes burning with anger. They immediately attacked Nolbu and his family, hitting them hard, chasing them wildly, screaming in fear around their own house. From the second gourd, a disgusting flood of dirty, muddy water burst out with a terrible roar, filling his once grand home, destroying all his valuable things, and throwing the house into complete, awful chaos. As he desperately cut open more gourds, each one brought new, heavy sadness. Only useless junk, prickly, painful bushes that poked and scratched, or scary swarms of stinging, poisonous insects. Each new gourd brought a fresh wave of bad luck and ruin, until Nolbu's whole wonderful property was a broken, empty mess. His family was left with nothing, their lives now much, much worse than Heungbu's had ever been. His big desire for more had completely ruined him, leaving only destruction behind. Nolbu, having lost everything, his big dreams shattered by his own endless greed and meanness, finally, slowly and painfully, began to understand the bitter, hard results of his bad actions. He was left with absolutely nothing, humbled deep down, a broken man. Yet, Heungbu, hearing about his older brother's terrible situation, did not celebrate. There was no sign of winning or wanting revenge in his kind heart. True to his steady and generous nature, he immediately rushed to Nolbu's help. He reached out with great warmth and selflessness, helping his brother and his family, offering them precious food, a safe place to stay, and much-needed comfort. Through this deep act of selfless love and forgiveness, Heungbu showed the world that true wealth is never measured in shining gold or things you own, but in the boundless kindness, deep generosity, and steady care that lives inside your heart. And so, the timeless story of Heungbu and Nolbu continues to be told, standing as a forever reminder that good deeds done with a pure heart are always, surely, rewarded, while greed and meanness, like harmful weeds, always lead to complete ruin.